If you're going to buy some cheap land from websites such as eBay or OfferUp, listen up. Now, I'm not going to talk to you about title fraud. That's always a possibility and you should always be aware of that. I'm talking about a cheap piece of land that an individual's trying to sell on the internet without title insurance. Now, there's nothing illegal about selling a cheap piece of land on the internet without title insurance. However, there's some things you need to know. In California, it's customary for the seller to pay for the buyer's title insurance. Title insurance can protect you from title fraud, but it's also going to let you know if there's any liens, judgments, or any easements on the property. These investors will go to a tax auction, maybe buy a cheap piece of land for $2,000 and turn around to sell it to around $4,000 or $5,000. They would rather not pay for the title insurance because that'll cut into their profit, which is understandable. Again, there's no law about selling property without title insurance. $5,000 sounds like a really good deal for a lot, but here's a scenario where it wasn't such a great deal. Investor buys a property from eBay for $5,000. A few years later, he decides to sell it for $10,000. Our new buyer is requiring title insurance. When we run the preliminary title report, we come up with a lien on the previous seller, and we find out that the previous seller was married when he bought the property. He bought it as a married man, sole and separate property. However, if you remember from any of our title videos before, we're a community property state here in California. So even though he said he is a married man, sole and separate property, his wife has to deed off that property. And we also find a tax lien on the previous owner. That tax lien is now our new owner's responsibility. So now our current owner has to pay for the tax lien or track the previous owner down. And now he's also entitled with the previous owner's wife, 50-50. These issues can all be handled. However, if you're dealing with somebody over the internet, a lot of times they don't want to talk on the phone. They want to just deal by email. And when escrow's trying to send paperwork to the previous owner for them to sign so we can clear up the title, they're not real easy to get a hold of because remember, they already closed the deal. They already turned the page. So we eventually did close that deal, but that deal did cost time and money. We eventually closed it 6 months later. That good deal you found on the internet ended up being more expensive than you thought. Buying and selling real estate is not super complicated if you know the little intricate rules about transferring title. So remember, if you're buying property off the internet, you may not be buying from a professional. So if you're not going to use a professional, at least talk to one. Mike and I are professionals. This is what we do. It's free to give us a call. We may stop that cheap deal from being so expensive. Hopefully you found this information useful. And remember, on all your real estate transactions, choose Mike and Bobby with Chicago Title.